Well, it was on full display, right? 2 weeks, political pomp and circumstances, and it finally came to an end last night as Hillary Clinton accepted the Democrat Party nomination. Despite a candidate with historically high unfavorable ratings, the Democrats did their best to sort of create optimistic and humanize Hillary Clinton and say how great she would be for America's future. While the Republicans and Donald Trump, they say are setting a dire, saying that the economy or the country is more dire. The big question is, who's more realistic? Take a listen.
We are clear-eyed about what our country is up against, but we are not afraid. We will rise to the challenge, just as we always have.
Our convention occurs at a moment of crisis for our nation. The attacks on our police and the terrorism of our cities threaten our very way of life. Any politician who does not grasp this danger is not fit to lead our country.
Joining me now to discuss the conventions and what kind of impact they may have, and of course setting the stage for the general election, we have Van Hipp, Gabby Moore, and Giella, Kathy Taylor, and Danielle McLaughlin. Van Hipp, let me start with you. It was interesting yesterday that Democratic convention. We had the flags, we have chants of USA, we had the Constitution. A lot of observers saying they weren't even sure what convention they were watching.
Well, they should go back, though, to Monday, Charles. I didn't see an American flags on Monday. And the Democrats should thank Donald Trump for tweeting out the fact they didn't have any flags on Monday. That gave them a chance to go down to Walmart and get some for Tuesday night. So, and also, I can look at Leon Panetta. He's one of the last of what I call the old Scoop Jackson Democrats, and we need more Democrats like that. He talks about defeating ISIS and taking the fight to ISIS. The guy gets booed. So, yes, two different conventions, two different Americas.
Gabby, you know, obviously that's what we're being told we've got to choose from. Is there a place in the middle, or is one party really connecting the right way with the voters? Is it Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton that has a better understanding of what it feels like on Main Street?
Well, I think when you go out into the states like Pennsylvania and Ohio and you talk to voters on the campaign trail, from what I've heard, they're really focused on how to actually pursue a recovery in this country and protect Americans. And that's not what they heard at the Democratic convention. I mean, what we heard from Hillary Clinton, what we heard from President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden is that we already have achieved a recovery in this country, which couldn't be further from what, middle-class Americans feel in the states that will really play a key role in determining who the next president is.
Danielle, you were actually at the convention a couple of days, right?
I was in Philly.
You were in Philadelphia. Okay, so this disconnect. I mean, we know the numbers. We all know the numbers, and of course, we all know that we're in the middle of an amazing economic meltdown when President Obama was sworn in. Obviously, we've rebounded from there,
yes.
But this notion, and I think Gabby hit on it, that people aren't feeling it, that they don't sense it, they don't see it. That's an extraordinary hurdle to get over. To say, hey, we've done great for you, but we acknowledge it's not good.
I agree with you. I think Clinton said there were 15 million jobs since Obama. That accurately figures probably more about 10. But she has a problem because she is the establishment, and so she will be blamed and she will be labeled for basically everything that's gone wrong. So she's in a difficult position to be on. Trump, on the other hand, is able to say this is wrong, that is wrong. But what I think Democrats want to see from Trump certainly is some solutions.
Well, what do you think, Kathy?
I think he laid out a lot of solutions, and one of the things that was notably absent from this convention was substance and solutions. It was really interesting to me. There was a lot of messaging, there was a lot of criticism, there were not a lot of facts and solutions. If you think back to Trump's acceptance speech a week ago last night,
sure.
When he criticized Hillary Clinton, he doesn't always do this, but in his acceptance speech, when he criticized her, it was only when he had facts and figures about the economy or ISIS or whatever he was referring to back it up. That was not the case this week, and I found it very interesting. It was like watching a weird novel. They spent all week at the DNC trying to repaint, recharacterize Hillary Clinton, and then last night she said, I am who I am, basically. And it doesn't really matter who I am. It's all of us who need to come together. I thought she was clever in her speech and her positioning, but it was completely a polar opposite with the rest of the convention.
Well, listen, Danielle, Hillary Clinton is not a great orator, so having to follow people who are legendary for that stuff, it's tough. To your point, Kathy, I think she probably did the right thing in trying not to be who she wasn't.
That's right.
I still think it could have had a little bit more punch, especially at the end.
Yes.
But she did lay out a plan of attack. She made it pretty clear how she's going to run this general election, and it's going to be brass knuckles.
It is going to be brass knuckles. I think that what she did and what the convention did was present a cohesive, platform-based plan for America. And to your point, I agree with you, Kathy. There wasn't a lot of specifics in her acceptance speech, but that's okay. The rest of her campaigning has been so full of policy, and she's so wonkish. People actually, they criticize her for it. On the flip side, Trump campaigning is there are very few facts that come out of his mouth, and far more criticisms of Clinton. And he did give some facts, finally, actually, in my view.
Let me ask Van about this, though. Van, Hillary Clinton did say, listen, in the first 100 days, we're going to have a jobs program, infrastructure kind of thing. I think that was going for those Rust Belt state voters who are disenfranchised. And she talked, of course, about spending a lot of money on college debt and college loans. I mean, it sounds like it's going to, if you like big government now, you should be thrilled because it's going to be big government and steroids. But I don't think it's an economic policy, to be quite frank with you. I think it's all about finding those niches in the electorate and trying to find a way to appease them and get them on board.
Charles, you're right, and she's walking a very fine line really a tightrope. If she moves too far to the left, she loses independence. If she moves too much to the center, she's going to lose the left-wing base that she comes from, and she's losing with independents right now. And compound that with the trust issue. 68% of the people in a new poll don't trust her. And her own campaign manager, this is very telling, he said it's going to be very tough for her to regain the trust of the American people before the general election, but they'll find out next year how trustworthy she is. That kind of reminds me of what Nancy Pelosi said about Obamacare. You got to vote for it first to find out what's in it.
Yeah.
I don't think the American people are going to go for that again.
I don't know. Fool me once, right? Hey, but speaking of that, speakers at the DNC took on that Clinton trust deficit. They took it on head on. I want you to take a listen to this.
As he's serving our nation abroad, I trust Hillary Clinton with our son's life.
I trust Hillary to lead this country.
People who have worked with her in every stage of her life, including leaders around the world who know her to be able, straightforward, and completely trustworthy.
Powerful forces are threatening to pull us apart. Bonds of trust and respect are fraying.
All right, Gabby, listen, everyone knows the data, everyone understands, and this is not something, by the way, that's necessarily new with Hillary Clinton. She's had decades of questionable activities, and she is the establishment, so they took it on head on. Do you think they put a dent in it at all?
No, I don't, because this is, the crowd that they were speaking to were Democratic delegates who don't necessarily, with the exception of those who support Bernie Sanders, they don't think that Hillary Clinton is untrustworthy. But when you look at the polls, we've seen upwards of 50% of Americans say that they not only think that Hillary Clinton is untrustworthy, they think she's dishonest, deliberately dishonest. And the email issue has been an ongoing thing for her campaign that she didn't address during her speech last night. Nobody really spoke to during the course of the convention in Philadelphia. And I think that the speech that she delivered last night was really an opportunity for her to speak directly to her trust issues, not to allow her husband, her daughter, the president, the vice president to speak to them. And she didn't do that last night. The message that Hillary Clinton delivered last night was that Donald Trump is bad and shouldn't be president, not here's why you should trust me and here's why I'm fit to hold the position of commander-in-chief.
Maybe this goes against historic norms, but what I'm understanding from a lot of people who are really close to both camps in this whole election process is that this is maybe the first year where you really can win by pointing to the other person. In other words, it's not about voting for me, but what may motivate people more than anything else is voting against the other person, which is probably why Hillary Clinton went this route. You would know.
They both have very high unfavorable numbers. We all know this.
Her deficit, though, is record. Like, it's a minus 24, favorable, unfavorable, the highest of any Democratic nominee in modern history.
You're absolutely right. I think what we need to watch for in the next couple of days is to see what the bounce is like post-convention, because the bounce comes from undecided voters. And to your point, the middle is going to matter more this election than probably many elections prior.
That Reuters poll looked pretty good for her today. What do you think, Kathy?
It did, but I think that was a stark difference between the two conventions. At the Republican National Convention, the effort was to not repaint Trump, but to uncover more about him. This is why he's so passionate. This is why he speaks off the cuffs sometimes because he's a passionate father, he's a passionate businessman, he's a get-it-done kind of fixer guy. At the Democratic National Convention, it was a let's repaint Hillary Clinton, let's recast her. And I think that's a very important difference. It may have played to the Democratic base. I don't think it brings over new voters the way the RNCs could have, and that'll be interesting. And I just want to shout out to the Clinton Global Initiative. Thank God for that, because now they have a way to pay for all the free stuff she promised last night.
Well, we can't leave that.
You had to get that one in. By the way, I don't think any of you guys answered the question, which one was closer to the reality. I would say, considering the bump that Donald Trump got, maybe more people feel this is a dark time. Coming up, guys, it's time to focus on the general election. Both Clinton and Trump hitting the road today, trying to rally those voters in these swing states. We're going to take a deeper look at it because 4 or 5 states are going to decide who the next commander-in-chief is. Stick around. The battle is joined. The general election is finally underway. Both candidates hitting the road big time today, and they're zeroing in on those key battlegrounds. Hillary Clinton kicked off her tour for the Rust Belt, beginning, of course, in a state where they had the DNC, trying to keep that momentum in Pennsylvania. Tomorrow it's on to Ohio. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is betting he can turn the purple state of Colorado red. That's where he says, that's where he's spending his day today. In fact, he just had a rally that wrapped up a short while ago. I want to take a quick listen.
Remember, I said it, just in case we don't make it because you people get lazy and don't vote, okay?
Woo! So why these states, right? Are they trying to turn independent voters their way? I mean, is there something about them? Can they flip from one party to the other? Let's talk about it. We've got Danielle, McLaughlin, Jillian Melcher, and Ed McMullen. Ed, in a real clear politics poll, Colorado has Hillary Clinton's got an 8 percentage point lead, 10 in the last Fox News poll. Of all the swing states, why is Donald Trump spending so much time there?
Well, I think Colorado's a key state, and he'll do very well there. But I think there are many in the battleground states other than Colorado where he's clearly doing very well. Down in Florida, across North Carolina, Virginia, over to Pennsylvania and Ohio. He's going to spend time in every key state that's critical. Colorado's a critical state. He's having great crowds and a great day today out in Colorado, 2 events. He's not letting any grass grow under his feet. Well, there's enough time, I guess, for these guys to go and visit all of the states. But Danielle, at some point, they start to sort of whittle down a little bit. And you know, Hillary, the Rust Belt, it's almost the same thing with her. It feels like almost an impossible task with the diss of coal miners and the idea that Trump has this almost ironclad hold on these blue-collar workers in those states. Is it an uphill fight for her?
Certainly it is. These are Rust Belt states, as you say. These are folks who have lost manufacturing jobs. They have lost coal mining jobs. And she has to give a message to them that they can be a part of a new economy, new technologies, new ways in which we can, fuel our lives. I think that her husband was very successful in those states, many years ago, but Trump definitely has the lead in these Rust Belt areas.
So she kicks it off in Pennsylvania, where Real Clear Politics has her up about a little over 4 points. Suffolk University says 9 points, mostly because of Philadelphia. You've spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania, specifically Philadelphia.
Yeah, absolutely. So union politics is my favorite thing to report on there. Corrupt, rowdy, interesting. But the really interesting thing that I found this past week is how many union members, blue-collar guys, are switching over and deciding to support Trump and talking to them about why they're doing it. The answer is simple. They're not paying attention to their union presidents because they think Trump is going to be the one to create jobs. Now, if you look in the first 3 months of 2016, 128,000 people joined the Republican Party. Many of those were Democratic converts.
In Pennsylvania?
In Pennsylvania, across the state. So I think this is a state that Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton have never lost before, but he's going to give her a real fight there.
I agree. There are 800,000 more Democratic registered voters in Pennsylvania than Republicans. But as you can say, there is some of this lead being broken into. And one of Clinton's biggest problems is getting out the vote. She needs to get people to actually go to the polls. She needs
I would not be surprised if Barack Obama or Michelle Obama spent Election Day in Philadelphia, because I think that's going to decide that state. Ed, last word to you on this. It looks like no matter what, it's going to be a nail-biter, right? Well, I think right now it's a historic situation. Mr. Trump got
out of the convention. It was an amazing historic convention. He's in neck and neck. He's within the margin of error in all the key battleground states. We have a secret weapon in Florida in Karen Giorno, who's one of the best activists and on-the-ground leaders. She's going for all 67 counties. That's the way we're going to play every single battleground state. Independents, Reagan Republicans, Reagan Democrats, Reagan Independents, they are all coming out, and they will be for Mr. Trump.
All right, guys, thank you all very much. In the meantime, the markets